what should we consider as the role of the government in youth actualization? 1. For any nation to thrive, its government has a vital role to perform. It is the responsibility of the government to provide a conducive atmosphere for their citizens to create, innovate, and flourish. This is because the progress of a nation is a function of the level of the resourcefulness of its people. These functions include, but are not limited to, A. Development and implementation of favorable economic policies that will encourage investors and investments in the country. B. Defending and protecting the territory of the nation. C. Maintenance of law and order. D. Provision of good infrastructure. E. Provision of direct and indirect employment. F. Provision of social amenities. And lastly, provision of quality education, the social contract with the people. However, I don't want the youth to use this as an excuse not to pursue their goals. You must decide your future for yourself and not allow it to be taken away from you. So what should you do to actualize your dreams? 1. Get educated. 2. Learn a trade. 3. Discover what you're wired for and harness your innate abilities. 4. Pursue what you're good at and improve your skills. 5. Network with like minds. 6. Pursue your dreams and aspirations. 8. Stay away from visionless people. And I pray that God will crown all your efforts with success in Jesus' name. Amen. To do justice to the topic of today, we have invited seasoned individuals who have distinguished themselves in their chosen fields of endeavor. They'll be sharing their experiences with you to motivate and encourage you. They're in the persons of 1, Reverend Femi Faseru. He was formerly an IT consultant in corporations like Glaxo Wellcome, Bank of Boston, Media Surface, and GSK. He's the resident pastor of Kingsway International Christian Center, KICC, Maryland, Lagos, as well as the National Superintendent of KICC Nigeria. He's a powerful and dynamic minister of the word. His ministry is known in Nigeria via television broadcasts and internationally via conferences. His opinion on pressing issues is regularly sought by the Nigerian mass media. The second speaker is Mr. Temitope Jegede. He has over 18 years experience in administration, human resources, sales, marketing, and entrepreneurship. He's the managing director of Tom Associates Training, an innovative training and capacity building company. The third speaker is Pastor Bidemi Mark-Mordi. She is the CEO of Verbatim Communications Limited. She's a multi-talented business leader, life coach, speaker, publisher, and the author of more than 18 books. She has over 20 years of extensive experience in the areas of leadership and value-based people development. I thank you all for taking time out of your very busy schedules to contribute to the survival of our youths and the development of our dear country, Nigeria. I pray that God will continually bless all your endeavors in Jesus' name. Amen. To all the on-site and online participants, I urge you to commit to making the most out of all you'll learn this afternoon. This is because it has the potential to change your life for the better. Once again, I welcome you all to today's session. God bless you.
Okay, I would like to say a very big thank you to the founder of the Rose of Sharon Foundation for her thought-provoking speech and welcoming address that has set the tone for today's program. Drawing from the theme of today's program, I would like to give a summary of the welcome address by the founder. She's basically telling us that today we'll be learning how self-actualization is a sustainable solution for youth empowerment, youth development, and youth survival. In her speech, she tried to explain the process of self-actualization as a means of identifying and processing your innate abilities, your individual specifics, harnessing them, and using them for self-fulfillment and socioeconomic sustainability. The Nigerian National Policy, Youth Policy of 2019, and the Nigerian National Youth Employment Action Plan of the same year focused and emphasized on two very important areas, amongst others. Number one, they talked about employment creation. Number two, entrepreneurship development. If you look at these two key areas, you'll understand that these are things that you can only achieve with innovation and creativity. And that's the only thing you can achieve through self-actualization. In 2020, the United Nations stated that 62% of the Nigerian population are below the age of 25. This year, 2022, precisely this month of April, the World Bank also brought up another data, bringing that figure to close to 70% of the Nigerian populations being youth. Now, think about it, what this really portends for Nigeria economically. If the gifts and talents and the potentials of our vast youth are actually harnessed, what that would do for the GDP of the nation. It's a big question for us all. This flagship program of the Rosa Sharon Foundation targets 5 categories of people, 4 to 5. We have undergrads, we have fresh graduates, we have job seekers. We also have the self-employed, we have entrepreneurs, and then we'll have the working class. So as you are seated here on site and as you are listening and participating online amongst these categories of people that I mentioned, what you should be thinking as this program proceeds is, how do I look inwards? How do I harness my innate abilities? How do I become the best of myself? Because in today's world, it's not just about thinking of the job you want to do as an undergrad or a fresh graduate or even a job seeker. It's not all about entering just any business as an entrepreneur. And it's not just all about doing the normal things as a working class person. It's about creating that edge that stands you out, that leads you on the path of creativity and innovation that can carry you for the long haul and sustain your survival. And there's no other way to do that by being the you, doing what you're wired for. And that's what we're here today to learn from our seasoned speakers. I know the founder has already introduced them, so I wouldn't bore us by reintroducing them again, but I would like to present them to you. On my immediate left, we have Mrs. Bidemi Mark-Mordi, who is the CEO of Verbatim Communications. Ma, you are welcome. We're really grateful and happy to have you here. On my extreme left, we have our own very own in the house, Mr. Temitope Jegede. Sir, we are happy to have you. God bless you. And on my immediate right, we have our pastor, Pastor Femi Faseru. Sir, you're welcome. God bless you for honoring us and being here. Thank you. Thank you all so very much. So to kickstart the program, we would like to welcome Mrs. Mark-Mordi to take the floor. But before I do that, I would like to make a brief announcement. After her session, we're going to be having a breakout session. When you started your registration, you registered under your category. Okay, so we're going to be announcing where your category will be meeting. One group will be meeting here, one group will meet here, the other two will go downstairs. And if you're online listening to us, you look at the banner, click on the link below, it will take you to the breakout sessions, and then you can get into the room of your own category. So without much ado, let's welcome Mrs. Mark-Mordi to take the floor. Thank you, ma'am.
Good afternoon, everyone. And Dr. Undu and Rose of Sharon Foundation and everyone who's asked me to come. I do appreciate this opportunity, and I'd like to say thank you. Because of time, I wouldn't want to begin to spend a lot of time on preliminaries. I've been asked to speak for about an hour on identifying and connecting the dots for youth survivor. And I've captioned this. If you are looking on the screen, or if you're online especially, you'd see that we have slides, and you can just take a look at those slides so that would flow together. I call this Know Yourself. Know yourself. If I had to choose the words, I would use the word thriving rather than survivor, because to survive is a great thing, but to thrive is better. I tell people that one of my superpowers is words. So every time words are thrown at me, I get to look at them and look at them again. But so let's look at the definition of the word survival. The word survival, the dictionary says that it is a state or fact of continuing to live or exist, typically in spite of an accident, ordeal or circumstance, or difficult circumstance, an object or practice that has continued to exist from an earlier time, the continuation of life and existence itself. Before I delve in, I'd like to say something, and I need you to pay attention to me. Please listen to me very carefully. You are our society's advantage and our greatest resource. If you're a young person, whether you're in this room or you're online, contrary to anything else that you think, you've been told, or that you have imbibed, here's what, on behalf of the Rose of Sharon Foundation, I'm telling you today. You are the society's greatest resource and advantage. We just heard Dr. Bowe tell us that they say over almost 70% of Nigeria's population are young people. That's you. That's not me. The future of this nation, and indeed from wherever you are logged in and you are listening to me, the future of your society and your nation is you. You are our greatest advantage, and you are our greatest resource. I wanted to put that out there because as I go on, I'll be calling on that and making a demand. That's who I know you are. So most of the things I'm going to be talking about will be about making a demand on the understanding that you are our greatest advantage and you are our greatest resource. To thrive is to grow vigorously. I'm from Edo State. So if I had to say the words in Pidgin English, from where I come from, we say you go grow well. To be the one who's thriving, the dictionary says it's to grow vigorously. It is to gain wealth and possessions. It is to prosper. It is to progress toward or realize a goal despite or because of circumstances. The thing I love about the word thrive is that thrive does not discount the reality that the environment is not friendly. To thrive means that in spite of all those things, you are growing. If we had to give you the microphone and ask you how many things are wrong, that you think what the odds are against you, you will have a long list of them. But my challenge for you today, and the demand I'm making on the person that I know you are and can become, is that you are here because you are our greatest resource, you are our greatest advantage. What that means is if you don't do yourself well, we have no future as a nation. I want you to embrace this. When you go home, when they say to you or things happen that want to negate that understanding, I want you to stand in front of your mirror and say, I am Nigeria's greatest resource. To thrive is to gain wealth and possessions. It is to prosper. The synonyms, there are synonyms for, that's all the words that describe the word thrive, is to flourish, to prosper, to be vital, that is, you have vitality, to have mental toughness. It's who you are. It's who you must grow to become. But to be able to get to that point, you must know who you are. That's why of all the things that we could have titled this session, I called it Know Yourself. The thing I've found, because there was a day I was like you, the thing I have found in the number of years that I have lived, and I have 3 children that are within your age bracket, at least for most of you seated here. My children are aged from 24 to 20. What I know is that if you know who you are, then no matter what else we try to sell you, no matter what else we put in front of you, who you are would always trump every challenge and everything that is stopping you. So who are you? Who are you? Exactly who are you? You are a complex makeup of many components. But for the purposes of today's conversation, I want to hone it into a few things, 5 things that make up who you are, the composition of your nature. Number 1, your nativity. What's the word nativity? It simply means where you are from, who you are in your core, your parents, your genealogy, your genetics. As many as we are in this room and possibly online, no 2 of us are the same. Even if they are twin brothers or twin sisters logged in or in this room today, you are not exactly the same person. But what you find is that who your parents are, your genealogy, that is your ancestry, and your genetics, the specific genetics that came from your parents to make you, they contribute to who you are. I pastor, and one of the things that I know without a shadow of doubt is all of those things matter when God is dealing with us. When God is dealing with you, who you are matters. So your nativity is the first one. The second one is something I call your dominion. Your dominion is comprised of your gifts and your talents and your abilities. Some people will call it your potential. These are things that God looked at you and put on the inside of you before he released you to the earth. So therefore, you did not manifest on a whim. You were carefully thought out, and then they released you to the earth, and they released you especially to Nigeria because there's something here that only you can provide a solution for. So I've talked about your nativity. I've talked about your dominion. The third component of who you are is your territory. This speaks to geographical and cultural influences. And when I mean your territory, it means where the rock, if you like, from which you were hewn, that is what fabric were you cut from, and where are you supposed to be manifesting. So the law of territory is also extremely important if you would know who you are. If you grew up in another economy or in another society, the definition of who you are will be different slightly from who you are now. The third component of your identity are your experiences, and this would involve your people, the people you have met over the course of your lives, the places you have been, and the events that have shaped you. The people you've met over the course of your life, this include your teachers, your fellow school students, if you're working, the people you have worked with in the course of your life, the places you have been that have made the greatest impact on you, and the events that have determined or that have shaped your mindset. I've talked to you about your nativity, your dominion, your territory, and I just spoke to you about your experiences. The 5 components of who you are or your identity are your trainings, informal and formal, your education, whether you went to a community school or you went to a private school, whether you studied for your core subjects, the sciences, or you studied the arts. All of these 5 things come together into something I call the nexus of your sweet spot. That center that determines how you see life, the perspective that you have, the way you approach problems and the solutions that you proffer. Anytime you do not know who you are, the odds are high that you will not be able to become who you should become. This is a place that I am able to say to you that all of life, whether you are 20 in this room or there is a 70-year-old in this room, all of life is a constant tussle between be and become. Who I was 15 years ago is not who I am now. Yet who I was 15 years ago is still relevant to who I am today. All of your life will be about be and become. Just when you arrive somewhere, 2 years from now, you have goals, you have aspirations, you want to be a certain kind of person. And by the grace and mercy of God, you would get there. But what I know is that in those 2 years, when you arrive at that spot, you will realize that there is someone else you want to be ahead of you. So life is constantly about be and become. I am who I am today. This is who I be. I know it doesn't sound like good English, but I want you to get it. This is who I be. But there is so much more I can become. Do you understand that? So who you are, because they prayed, and one of you prayed, I will just quickly tell you who God says you are. 1, you're created in the image and likeness of God. 2, he's put in you capacity to be and to become. All of your lives, like I told you, is a constant be-become. A journey to be and become. Number 3, you can never cease becoming. So whether you are 60 today, tomorrow you will still have something that you have to become. That's who you are. You are created in the image and likeness of God. And he's put all things, the Bible tells me, that pertain to life and godliness in you and around you. And so if I take you back to those 5 components, some of us wake up and we think, oh, maybe if other people had given birth to me, maybe if my parents were different people. No, you are exactly the son and the daughters of who you should be, so that you will be relevant when life makes a demand on what God has put on the inside of you. Now, why are you here? That's the next question that I want us to answer. We use the word purpose a lot. I run something called Purpose University, so I know that a lot of us think, especially believers or Christians, we think that purpose is something that is exclusive to Christians. Purpose is not exclusive to Christians. Anyone who aligns with the God who created him would live a purposeful life. So there is a reason for your existence. That reason is called purpose. But your purpose is not to be a teacher. Your purpose is not to be a business person. Your purpose is not to be a doctor. Your purpose is not to be a politician. Your purpose is to glorify the one who created you. That is the one purpose. All men, young and old, have the same purpose, to glorify God. Yes? Now, so what else is there? Your assignments. To be a teacher in a certain season is an assignment, is something you've been assigned to for a certain season of your life. To aspire to be the governor of your state is an assignment. That's why we never find someone who is a governor for the rest of his life. Do you know that? So he's either a governor for 4 years, if we're taking the Nigerian political system as an example. He's either a governor for 4 years, or he's a 2-term governor for 8 years. Do you understand that? That's a season of his or her life that they've been assigned to go and superintend over a state. So your purpose is why God would look at you and nod and say, well done. Your assignment are the different expressions at different times of your life that capture the capacity for you to live your life in such a way that God will say, well done. Now, purpose is therefore, or I'll say entirely, if we take the word purpose to wrap up every assignment you would live through, it is what you are good for. It's not what you are good at. It is what you are good for. What does that mean? If today we were at a restaurant and they brought lunch and we ordered lunch, and maybe one of us or two of us do not have enough money, and we say, oh, I won't be eating, I don't have enough money. And I turn to those ones, or one of you turns to the other and says, I'm good for it. What does it mean? It means that they can eat, you will pay, yes? Purpose is what you are good for. It is that thing that God called you, because there's no one else but you who can pick up the tab for that thing. You'll be like, but many people do many things that are similar. Yes, but they don't do those things the same way. So there is something that it looks like you are the one that can write the check for. And that thing was not put in place by man. It was determined by God. And he said, oh, Bolaji is the one that is good for this thing. Dayo is the one that is good for this thing. Ifoma is absolutely good for that thing. So purpose is a compendium of assignments that you are good for, yes? Now, your assignment is what you do to express what you are good for. Your assignment is what you do to express what you are good for. Your assignment is what you do to express what you're good for. So, for instance, I'm good to bring God glory by helping people become. That's my life work. It's defined in 4 words. I help you become. Now, the many things, the assignments by which I help people become. I pastor on one level. I coach on another level. Some other people will say I'm their mentor on some level. I am a wife on another level. I'm a daughter on another level. I'm a big sister to my siblings on another level. All of these things are little things that I have taken responsibility for, so that when God says, are you good, Bidemi? I say, yes, I'm good for something. Does that make sense so far? Does that make sense? So I talked about, in passing, something called the sweet spot. When you take your nativity, you take your dominion, you take your territory, you take your experience, and you take your training, they form a nexus that I refer to as your sweet spot. What that means is these 5 things contribute to the best things that you can do with your life. You see, when Dr. Bowe was speaking, she said, it's no longer about let me do any job. Let me just apply. You go there, they say, what can you do? You say, anything, I will do it. This is not the era when you show up to do anything. My counsel every time is do the work that you are good for. The work that you are good for is finding the nexus of your nativity, your dominion, your training, your experience, and your territory. If you go to that place, if you allowed yourself to, if you take yourself through a distilling process where, okay, your father died when you were 3, it's part of the experiences that will shape you. There is no way your outlook in life will not be colored by that one event. You are the firstborn of 6 children. That position in your family, I promise you, will affect your outlook on life. All of these things, when we are able to mop them, become how you see yourself in the things that you are good for. Now, what that means is that there is a why you are created. And that why will be manifested through a vehicle. Today, I decided that I will speak more about work, especially because we have lost the true definition of work. I said I will talk about work so that you have understanding that your assignments will be work that is assigned to you from time to time. And as long as you do every single work that you've been assigned to, as long as you do it well, you'll arrive at the place where you can be said to have lived a purposeful life. Now someone is saying, please, ma, get to the money. Who is thinking like that? It's safe. Who wants to get to the money? You want to get to the money. I want to get to the money too. We will get to the money. But you see, contrary to everything we have been told, work is the only vehicle that God orchestrated to bring wealth to his people. Now, somebody is saying, I don't want to work. Guy, you got to work. Because work is not the same thing as labor. Work is not the same thing as labor. Work is an expression of your best self in the things that you are assigned. Work is an expression of your best self in the things that you are assigned. So therefore, work is the generic name for the many assignments that make up your purpose. Work is the generic name for many assignments that make up your purpose. There are many keys to work, and I'll quickly take you through them. Number 1, I already told you, do the work that you are good for. I would never have survived medical school. Intellectually, I probably would have passed it. But because it's not I have 3 children. In the days when they were small and you had to look after them when they catch a cold, my younger sister did that work for me. You can safely say, and you won't be insultive to me, if you say that woman has no bedside manners when it comes to caring for the sick. It's not something I came from the shop with. It doesn't mean that I'm a mean person. It just means that I tire quickly when someone is sick around me. And it's simply because when I'm sick, I keep going. Somehow, it doesn't matter how ill I am. If you find me lying down, most people would have died. So because I'm strong like that, my threshold for pain is strong. When someone says, I have a headache, I'm thinking, you have a headache, so get up, let's go. I have a headache, but I'm going. So if my parents had insisted that I become a medical doctor, guess what was going to happen? My bedside manners would put me in trouble. I don't care. It's not something I'm interested in. But from as long as I can remember, from when I was 2 years old, and I'll soon be 52, for as far as when I was 2 years old, words excite me. Before I became 10 years, my mother I wasn't from a rich home, but my mother had bought everything that looked like a novel around us. Because of me, the bookstore has to weekly go make the effort to look for what is new. Because when there are no novels to read, I'd read the dictionary. Words were my forte. I loved words. They made me feel like I could do anything. My greatest joy is to sit down and be able to find 16 words for the same thing. It excited me. And up to tomorrow, all the work that I do is word-based. As I sit here, I think it was 2 weeks ago or last weekend, we released my 20th book that are published already. Because words they are not scarce where I am. People will tell you that I have been able, by my grace for words, shift their mindsets to get them from a place where they were stagnated to moving forward. Now, when I started this journey and people will ask me, what are you good for? And I'll say, I'm good for words. They'll laugh at me and they'll be like, words? Who can't use words? Because they think it's a stringing of alphabets together. No. Words, the capacity for words, as far as I'm concerned, is beyond a stringing of alphabets together to make sense. It is that there is a power when the right words are picked and used. And when you release that power, you release the words, and the power is released with them, they bring people to places that they did not know existed. So when I say do the work that you are good for, I mean if you're good with taking care of sick people, do not say, oh, medicine doesn't sell now in Nigeria, so I better go and do celebrity. I hear that some people want to become celebrities. I still don't understand what it means, but maybe before I leave today, I'll be educated. Actually, there are children that when you ask them what they want to become, they say, I want to be a celebrity. And I'm okay. What profession is that? Or what assignment is that? I want to be an influencer. What does that mean? Have you noticed that the true influencers are not the ones that have 150 million people following them on Instagram? The true influencers are the ones that are changing lives and doing stuff that makes sense. So let's go on. Do work that you are good for. I can be here all day, but I'll be fast. Number 2, process your gifts and talents into a skill. I tell people every time, nobody pays for potential. So if someone stood in front of me and said to me, Ma, potentially, I can climb this building. Pay me 20,000 naira. Who's going to pay for potentially? I will not give my money to someone. I have something up the building. I need to come down. Then I said, can you climb? He said, potentially I can climb. Nobody pays for potential. So what you have that you are good for right now, the things that excite you to do, make sure you sit down and distill them or process them into a skill, a product, or a service. The only time people will give you their money is that you have a skill to contribute to what they are doing that they don't have. The only time someone will give you money is you have created a product or manufactured or produced something that they need. So they will give you money because that's what the exchange is about. The only time someone will give you their money is that you have a service that you can render them. So they will give you money for your service. That's why I said that work is the vehicle that God is giving mankind so that mankind can be wealthy. So if you want to hammer, find the work that you're good for. Now, the beauty about the work that you are good for is it's not hard work. There are days that, honestly, I teach like 5 times. Each one not less than 1 hour. Each one a different subject matter altogether. And I can do that, and I will not eat, and I will not be tired, and you won't find me yawning until I'm done. It's work I'm good for. It's easy. Because it's easy, you can ask me to do it over and over and over, and you'll never hear me complain. Some of us take jobs. 2 months later, The job you took and you came to give testimony and all of us clapped. 2 months later, when we ask you how's work, like, I tire. My Oga is not nice. When you do the work you're optimized for, the work you're good for, even the craziest of bosses can't stop you. Because you are in your element and you're doing what God is put you on earth to do. Does that make sense so far? I want you to recognize that work is traceable. For those of us that want to hammer, let's go back there. Work is traceable. What does that mean? It means that, Dr. Ndu, before they called you doctor, you went to school. And it wasn't just that you enrolled and you went AWOL. It meant you showed up in class. When exams came, you studied. You wrote the exams. Studying and showing up and not writing the exams will not make you a doctor. Am I correct? So you had to write the exams. Is that true? You wrote the exams, and what happened at the end of the exams? They said you passed. Or you passed, whichever of the two. And that went on for a number of years before you became a doctor. Work. Success does not exist in a vacuum. Otherwise, EFCC will not be knocking on people's doors. Because somebody declares money, and they have checked and checked and checked and checked. They can't trace the work that the person did to amass that level of wealth. They say, go and bring him. Do work that we can trace, Biko. What did I say? I said something else now. Biko. Do work that is traceable. All work is traceable. We can always tell if we do a Google right now. I'm sure you will find Pastor Faseru. You'll find his footprint online for at least 5 years. What that means is that you can trace his journey from like 5 years before. If we ask Mr. Jegede, if we do a Google and you go back, you will find out that there are things, or maybe another 5 or 7 years. The same with me. People don't drop from the sky and hammer. Let me go on. This is because my children are within that age grade. So it's a conversation we have every day. So make sure your work is traceable. My younger sister said to me last week, she said, sister, I said, if you have a tenant and their small Apache your neighbor generator is on online all night, and they all have computers, but they don't go out during the day. She said, their work is not traceable. Be very careful. We want you to do work that is traceable. Work that we can tell when you started. If you want to see my footprint online, you will find when I started to blog with Blogspot. Then you will find different versions of my websites over time. You will find when I started to podcast in 2013 or so, and it was just 15 minutes. And you will find what I had podcasted this year, that is 30 minutes for applause. When did we meet? The first and only time we met. It's almost about 12 years ago. And she could remember. Well, I can't remember, but she could remember what it was that the conversation was about, which was why she reached me when this was open. And she said, do you remember? And I'm like, can I say I don't remember her? Can I say I remember her? Okay, let's just play along. That's because work is traceable. And she said, I went online and I searched for you. And because work is traceable, guess the number she called? 4th string, who picked? By myself. Work is traceable. Okay, let me go on. Work develops character. Work develops character. I have been told by a big brother that charisma without character ends in catastrophe. Charisma without character ends in catastrophe. So to just be able to stand here and do abracadabra and all of us are swooning over you, you need to sustain our followership of you with character. Ultimately, it may take 5 years, it may take 10 years, it may take 15 years. Some people, it's 30 years. It's catching up with them now. Where there is a crack in character, work cannot be sustained. And work helps to build character. I'll tell you a short story. When I finished, I told you that words were my forte. So naturally, my parents wanted me to study law. But somehow I ended up in English and literary studies. Praise God. So I went through that. I graduated. And then I wanted to work. At the time when I wanted to take my first job after youth service, I had 2 other cousins that we lived in the same house. And my uncle, whom we all lived with at that time, was very close friends with Chief Gabriel Igbinedion. Okada Air was the in thing then. So my uncle said, anyone who wants to work in the aviation industry, it was just a note, and we were taking. My cousins didn't mind. They went to work there. But somehow, even without this level of knowledge, I always knew that I wanted work that I was good for. And aviation, and then it was cabin crew work anyway. I got a job with then Passionate Communications, publishers of Passions magazine, and I was earning 700 naira a month. But I felt like I was on top of the world. It was the best thing that could happen to me. When I left that job, I went to work in an advertising firm for a couple of years. Then I left and went to work in a printing press for another couple of years. After that, I went back to school. And then I went back to do school again, and I did a postgraduate in theology. Now I run a publishing company called Verbatim Communications. Every experience in my work assignments all come together for the work that I do today, and then I pastor. So all those little things that didn't look like they amounted to, they looked like they were standalones, but God was weaving a thread through something that I couldn't have planned. And see where I am now. Work develops character. I remember how we worked in Passionate Communications. I remember that after a while, the business had a problem and they had to shut down. I remember that the last couple of months' salary, we were not paid. I walked away from there with a mindset that if I ever employed someone, ever in my life, I will pay them, even if it is the last thing that I will do. Someone will be like, I'm talking to you about how it developed character in me. Working in the printing press, you had to see. It's detailed. The job was a job of details. You had to be, because once the print is gone, the thing is gone to press, and there's a what we used to call printer's devil, you're in trouble. So I had to calm down so that I could read through everything before it went to press. It's not a surprise that 20 books and counting, because all of the work that I did across the number of years prepared me for what I'm doing now. Does that make sense? Work is obedience to a command. Work is obedience to a command. Work is obedience to a command. God said, work. That was what he said to Adam and Eve in Genesis chapter 2. He put them in the garden and he said, tend it. Work is how we bring order from chaos. When in Genesis 1, for instance, that they said that the darkness was upon the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. God said, let there be. But if you go, and if you don't mind me taking you to the Bible, Genesis chapter 2, verse number 5, it said that God did not allow vegetation to grow because there was no man to till the land. It meant that if it grew, there would be chaos. And because of that, God did not allow anything to grow until man manifested. before he allowed vegetation. Because work is how we bring order to chaos. If we came here this morning and the chairs were stacked on top of each other, we will not start as fast as we started today. It was someone's assignment to sweep the place and make sure that the chairs were arranged. That is work. And that work is enabled you and me to sit down now to be able to do what we think is intellectual exercise. What that automatically means is that there is no work that is ifradig. What does that mean? There is no work that is not valuable. Because the one who swept and cleaned and mopped and cleaned this place today did valuable work. That's why I could sit, and that's why you could sit. So work is not about the size of the work. Work is about the posture with which we do it. If we do work with the right posture, work will pay us. And when I told people that words were my forte, they were like, what will you do with words? If you sit in front of me for 1 hour and I coach you, better make sure that you came. In fact, you can't even come first until you have credited my account with $500. You can't come. And that's my hourly rate because I'm being nice. And guess what? I won't lay hands on you. I won't shake a three around you. I'm not going to read your book for you. I will just sit and ask you questions. I know you coach. Do you ask questions? That's all. I don't even have answers for you. But the questions I will ask you, you better be ready to pay for them. Work is how we gain wealth. Let me go on. It's a lot, but I know my time is running, and I have to. You see? I have to. Let me talk to you about something I call workplace economies. Workplace economies. No. Resources for building a thriving life. Let's go to the slide. Yes, that slide. Resources for building a thriving life. Number 1, imagination. Imagination. Let me quickly tell us, and the people on this divide can attest to the fact that man tends to live from memory. Man tends to live from memory. The things that have happened before, the places we have been, how people treated us, all of those form our memory. But the greatest resource that God gave man after, in my opinion, Jesus Christ, is the man's mind. Your mind is a gift. And that's because by your mind, you can imagine many things. So imagination is a resource that you use to build a thriving life. Number 2, time. Time is a resource. And what I know about time is that time is a secondary resource, yes, but it is non-renewable resource. That means that yesterday was the 29th of April. You can never go back to that day. Yesterday is gone. Is gone, is gone. If you woke up yesterday and you had a to-do list and you did not do one of those things, you can do those things today, but it pushes forward what you should have done today into tomorrow. So you have time as a non-renewable resource. It is expendable, and once it is expended, it cannot be replenished. You have words. The capacity to communicate is a resource that God has given us. You communicate with yourself. What you tell yourself matters. You communicate with your clients if you are a business person. You communicate with your associates. All of this communication determines the health of your economy. Yes? Next is your relationships. Please do not joke with your relationships. Relationships. Nobody can thrive without intentional relationships. I hope that part of today's meeting is that you will be allowed to interact. There are people who always open doors, but you have to be in a relationship with them to walk through the door that they open. Do you understand that? So relationships are a resource. Let me talk to you about resilience. Resilience. Resilience is a resource that God has given us. You communicate with yourself. What you tell yourself matters. You communicate with your associates. All of this communication determines the health of your economy. Yes? Next is your relationships. Please do not joke with your relationships. 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 the capacity to not easily give up. The capacity to not easily give up. Unexpected or unexpected outcomes is a thriving life resource. You don't want to give up. If you have the capacity to go another mile, by all means stop and rest, but go another mile. You will get where you need to go. Belief is a resource. It fuels your energy to produce, making impossible things possible for you. Belief. What do you believe? When people said to me that words are commonplace, that there's no way words will put me anywhere on any map, I believed that words could do something with me. That's why I'm here today, yes? Work is the medium through which you fully leverage your identity and express all that you are on earth for. If you do not work, you cannot leverage your identity. And you need to be sure that you do that. In a world where we all write, we all send messages in abbreviations, communication is critical. Because if you send me an email after today and you write your C, I want to come and see you, and it's the alphabet C, I will not respond. So, as much as test speak is good, stop. In environments like this, make sure that your conversations are, especially if you're writing, make sure that your words are properly spelled out. I'm not talking about misspelling. I'm talking about abbreviations. I have had someone send what's that thing called? Application letter, and he abbreviated the words. My children can send me a message in abbreviation. We have a family Telegram group. If you want to speak to the parents, make sure you speak English language. Every word must be spelled from beginning to the end. Work is the medium through which you are able to fully leverage your identity. And to be able to do that, you must close what I call the achievement gap. In a world where things are fast changing, there are 7 core competencies I want to highlight for you. Outstanding value systems and beliefs, aka good human being. It's not complicated. Good human being. As far as I'm concerned, to be a good human being is we get to the door and you are ahead of me and I let you go. It's as simple as that. So when we hear outstanding value systems and beliefs, I don't want you to think anything grandiose. Just think about, I'm considerate of my neighbor. Good human being. Number 2, critical thinking and problem-solving capacities. Do you know what the problem is right now in this room? Can you solve it? Those days when we didn't have blinds, when we would want to interview people, we would leave the ACs off and we would leave the windows closed. The entire interview is as you come in and you sit down, we will let you sit down, we will step out. All we want to see is if you get up and you open the windows. If you get up, and if we come back in and you got up and you opened the windows, the ACs are not on, we will just take your personal details and somebody will just ask you simple questions and would ask you to go. You've gotten the job, not because you told us about how skilled you are, but because you responded to a situation with initiative. Number 3, collaborations. We live in a a generation out or a dispensation where nobody has to have everything now. There was a time that, the organization must have in-house training. Who does that anymore? People don't bother anymore. There are too many facilitators who are good at their craft, who you can ask to come for a fraction of what you would have paid to put up the infrastructure and do all of that to train your staff. So people don't make such capital investments in things that they can farm out or they can ask others to contribute. So collaboration is the word of the age. What that means is if you can build an app, then let's say you want to do fintech, because I hear that's where the hammering is now. That you can build an app does not mean that you know finance. Am I correct? But 3 of you can come together. You know how to build the app. They know how money works in the back end. And other person understands the language of money. My point is, don't try to do alone something that 4 of you can do and do excellently well. I have a sister, she keeps telling me, she said, it is better to own 20% of 100 million than to own 100% of 500,000. I heard her. So I never sit down, ownership is overrated. Collaborations. Number 4, adaptability. The capacity to adapt to situations. There's the thing, when you adopt something, you take it hook, line, and sinker. But the environment that you are growing in now is an environment where that is how we used to do it does not work. So adaptability means that you are malleable, you are teachable. You show up and they say, have you done it before? And you remember even as you sit there that Google is your friend. And you say, by tomorrow I'll be able to do it. To be adaptable. Hallelujah. I'm sorry. The pastor showed up eventually. Initiatives and entrepreneurism. Remember, I told you that nobody pays for potential. I want you to recognize that when you show up at an organization to work, you are selling your service. You are an entrepreneur. He will tell you more. You are selling something. You are not pushing files. You are not sending out emails. You are selling something. If you know you are selling something, then it means that you must recognize that the only way someone sells something and they're happy is they make a profit. So your skills are something you are selling. Have that at the back of your mind. And let initiative bring you to the place that you become that person that people cannot overlook. Make yourself relevant by your capacity to provide solutions. Does that make sense? Number 6, I'm soon there. Effective oral communication. I've talked about it. And written communication. So let me not overflog this horse. I beg you, I beg you, I beg you. Go back to the dictionary. There's a reason it exists. Number 7. There's something I like to do. When young people come around me, I like to give them stuff to research. I just tell them, go and research how to. Because I want to see your capacity in digging out what is not on the surface. Guys, you live in a generation where bell rest minimum does not work. You must be someone who can dig. You must be someone who can persevere and read. One of the saddest expressions I hear from young people is to say, I don't like to read. It breaks my heart. Not today when not only do we have paper books, we have electronic books, and we even have audio books. There are too many ways for you to read. Everything that you want to become is already written in a document, a book somewhere. If you read it, you will have answers. Thank you, sir. Guys, finally, the strength of your identity and your capacity to deploy the 7 core competencies expressed through work is how you not only survive, you thrive. I'm sure a few of us have come across young people that are so good at what they do that we don't name a price for them. We ask them to name their price. We say to them, set your salary, because we can see the ton of value that they bring. You are a blessed generation because you live in an era where what happened 2 minutes ago is already on the palm of your hands by your phone. Deploy those devices. Use them to fight where you are coming from. Your nativity may not be the best. What that means is you may have grown up from the worst part of town. But the last time I checked, nativity does not define anyone. My parents were not rich. But by the grace of God, my children have received a lease of life better than the one I had. Because I did not let what was obtaining in my environment to stop me. I began by telling you that you are the greatest resource that this nation has, that you are our greatest advantage. I'm going to close again by saying to you, you are our greatest resource, and you are our greatest. Happened in one day, as the founder said in her opening address. But I see extremely successful people inside of this room. And I'm not even praying. I'm just telling you the truth. Because life has a way of making room for you when you demand your place. There is something on the inside of you, and I dare you to demand your place. But do not demand it by carrying placards. Demand it by making yourself so relevant that my generation does not dare to say no to you. Thank you so much for listening. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Bidemi Mark-Mordi. God bless you. That was awesome. That was wonderful. What hit me most is when she said, you need to know yourself. She started by saying the Nigerian youths are the greatest advantage and the greatest resource that we have. I would like our youth population on site and online to remember that statement. And also, I would like you to also remember she talked about the nexus, which is your sweet spot that contains your nativity, your dominion, your experiences, your education, your territory, and your training. Another thing she said that was thought-provoking is she said, you need to process your gifts into a skill, a product, or a service. Because someone will not pay you for something they already have. They only go all the way to pay you for what they do not have. She also said, you must do work that is traceable because success does not exist in a vacuum. And then she said, your skill is something that you must sell. And then finally, she mentioned life resources and 7 competencies. She called our standing value system that you need to process and apply for you to thrive in the Nigeria of today and in the world of today. Thank you once again, Ma. God bless you. Thank you for clapping for her. That's wonderful. Okay, so we're moving into our next segment, and that will be the breakout sessions. I mentioned that earlier. Those of us who are in the category of undergrads, you're still in school, maybe you're in 100 level, 200, 3 or 4 or 5 even, or you're a fresh graduate, or you've graduated a while now, you're still seeking for a job, you will have to remain in this room. Mrs. Bidemi Mark-Mordi will be here with you for the next 40 minutes to attend to your questions, any challenges you're having. So it's like a practical session. And those of us who, so this is room 1, those of us who registered as self-employed, you would have to be going to room 2 with Pastor Femi Faseru. Sir, one of our team members, Mrs. Adioti, will take you down when the time comes. And then for those of us who registered as working class, Mr. Temitope Jegede will be taking you also downstairs in another room. So the essence of these breakout sessions is for us to actually have one-on-one with our facilitators, ask your specific questions, the challenges you are facing in these areas that we just mentioned of the different categories, and hear them give you their words of experience and knowledge that you can use to solve your challenges and your problems. And for our online participants, the same goes for you. When you click the link below the banner of this program, it will take you into the breakout session, and you will see the 3 rooms. So you can click and get yourself access into the room that belongs to your category. Would practicalize that now as we take a brief interlude.
All right, good afternoon again. I hope you can hear me. If you're online, please just show me some love. Let me know you can hear me. For those of us who were in the room earlier on, and when I spoke, good afternoon, God bless you. Okay, so this session is breakout. That means that I speak less and you speak more. So you would ask me questions, and I expect to, hopefully I'll be able to answer your questions. If I can't answer the question, I'll say to you, wait first, let me go and come back. Is that okay? Okay, so like you heard, work is a big thing. Identity is a big thing. There are a few things that make you who you are. But don't limit your questions to just what we had said in the last session. If you have real life situations and you want to ask us questions, please ask. I'm sure that somehow we'll be able to find our way together, okay? So I'll just open the room and ask people who have questions to please ask. For the rest of us, I'll probably be also, I'll be watching the comments. So if you have questions as well. But if you have questions and you're in the room on Zoom, please indicate by a show of your hand. And when I mention your name, you can unmute yourself and then ask your question, okay? All right, is there anybody in the room who has a question? Yes. Yes, you. Yes. Good afternoon. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That I'm meant to be in the class. So my tutor sent me a list of all the tutorials. Right now, I'm having issues finding time because at home in the morning, I'm busy helping people with stuff around, like just daily domestic errands and all. So that's just the issue at the moment, trying to
Find time
to be able to watch my tutorials.
Okay, so here's what I know. If it's important to you, you'll find the time. And the reason I say so is because, for instance, if you were in school and I gave you a dress, and what I pay you from making your dress is how, or making my dress, is how you would have allowance for the next 1 week. Will you make my dress or not? You make it. What time are you likely to use to make the dress?
Anyone I find.
Anytime you find, and possibly at night when everyone else is sleeping. It's your tutorials. As long as it's on your phone, if you get your earplugs, you'll be able to do them. Do them on the go. Then, but you also should have a conversation with your guardians or your parents and find a time that works for you. There's a trick I use. If I want to be productive, I do what I call utilizing the time when I'm best productive. And my best from 3 a.m. to about 11 a.m. That's when you get the best out of me. So if I'm going to do any mental capacity, mental work, or I have to, maybe write or create content, which is those the things that I do. I wake up at 3 a.m. Now, a lot of people don't like to wake up at 3 a.m., but it's the best time for me to be able to land what I need to land. So I wake up at 3 a.m. But that also means that because I want to make sure that I'm well, I also go to bed on time. So I have less time for TV. It already said it was recording. It's already recording in the cloud. It says the only other record button here is on my system. It's already recording. Okay, so you have to find the time because this is important to you. Do you understand that? You may not have the luxury of doing 2 hours straight, but if you do 30 minutes bursts, it will mean that you will get the work done slightly slower, but you will get it done. The other thing I was talking about before I was interrupted was you need to also have a conversation with your parents, your guardians, the ones who handle you, to let them know that this is part of the challenge so that they can structure your domestic work, in such a way that it makes room for this one that you have to do. Everything can be resolved with a conversation. Do you understand that? All right.
Thank you, Ma.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. God bless you.
Okay. My question goes
Even
like,
with the microphone? Nah. Chest. Use your chest. They talk, they talk.
Okay, my question goes like this. Like, when you were younger, as with what you said you were good with words, and also you were able to chase your dream, what you actually wanted. But a situation whereby some of us now, we don't really know exactly what we like because we have so many potentials, a lot of things. So how do we streamline ourselves to know exactly the work that is best for us?
Okay, so here's what I usually tell people. To do the work that is best for you, do the cheapest, the fastest, and the easiest. Do the cheapest, the fastest, and the easiest. So there are other things I know how to do, but they are not the things that are in front for me. They are not the first things I started to do. What I started to do was I could write and write really well. I could use words and use words well. They were the ones that were cheapest. My parents didn't have to get me special gadgets to be able to do that. They were the ones that were easiest. No matter the time of the day, if I wake up, I can get them done. And they were the ones that they were fastest for me to do. So I started by scribbling, I started by writing, just little things here and there. Then anyone who needs to write something, I'd help them write. With just helping people do that, I was getting better. I was honing my skill, I was getting better. So when the day came and I could produce something, I produced a magazine. That magazine became what I call my leverage product. It was the thing that opened doors for me because I could produce this one. It showed to people what I could do. Books were not part of the conversation at that point, but I did the cheapest, the fastest, and the easiest. When you distill the cheapest, the fastest, and the easiest, you find that you have something to show. You have proof faster than if you had taken the hardest, the most expensive, and the one that takes the most time to do. Do you understand that? Here's what I know. Everything that you know how to do, they will connect ultimately in what you will do with your life. But at this stage, what are the 3 words? Quickest, fastest, easiest. That's the way to go. Okay? Anyone else? Yes, please.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
I would like to go back to what we discussed earlier. You're talking about work. So, before I gained admission into the university, at first, I applied for Otuoke, which my mother called me and said, she seated me down and we talk about financial and said, "Nonso, why can't you go to now and be working and also learning?" I said, "Okay, ma, you made a point there." But I also made a research that, why is it that you said that we should do the work we are good at, we are good for? But most organization now and there, we need to know someone that knows someone before you actually get the job you have the passion for. That's why I'm asking, why is it that way?
I wish I had an answer for you. I really don't have an answer for you, but that's in a weird kind of way. Our society is structured not to make room for people just like that. The way our society is structured for us to have to fight for the things that should come to us a tad more easily. Which is why I said to your brother, produce something. You see, when you stand in front of me and you are trying to convince people applying for, let's even assume that I want to give you a chance. Proof is the best way to open doors or to walk through doors. So if you're passionate about writing, for instance, is there anybody in this room who likes to write? Anybody in this room? They're afraid for me to say, because I'll say, show me. Which is exactly what I'm going to ask you to do. If you like to write, I want to see what you have written. If you like to speak, you want to be an on-air personality, I want to hear you record talk and send to me. When I listen to you, it opens doors faster than you just come and you're trying to convince me with a certificate that you can do it. Where you are growing up, or you've grown up in this generation where it's more show. Show me what you can do. Do not tell me what you can do. Do you understand it? So if it's something that you are passionate about, this is the time to begin to find a way to do it by yourself, wherever you are, at whatever level you can, so that when the day comes and they ask you to show proof, you have something to show. Here's something that most of you are missing. The opportunity that abounds in volunteer work. It's enormous. It's volunteer. They won't pay you most of the time, but it makes your CV look good. So rather than show up and want to tell me that you can do the work and that they should pay you, volunteer your service, even if it's, ASU has been on strike for over a month now or more. Daniel, stand up, let them see you. Where are you? Are you a student? What school? What level? What are you doing in Lagos? But before we got here, the reason why the moment ASU went on strike, I said, Daniel, get in a vehicle and begin to come, is simply because I have deployed Daniel and he's shown me what he could do. So when ASU went on strike again, just a few months to his graduation, I thought to myself, why would he sit there and just wait endlessly for ASU? He should come and work with my media team, and he would grow from there. He would learn things. We gave him a place to lay his head. It's not much. And we give him a stipend because we can afford it. But I don't think that the experience will look as small on his CV as when he puts it there as what he gets out of out of being there. Do you understand it? So you don't wait for people to come and tell you, you are good enough. You make them confess that you are good enough. Does that make sense to you? That's what you would demand. That's why I said the word is very good at making room if you demand it. But if you don't demand it, you don't have anything to show. Everybody will keep tossing you here and there. And because the competition is high, I know that you must produce so that I can see. Somebody is going to ask, where's the money to produce? Not all things take money to produce. Money is the last thing for production. If you would embrace the volunteer culture, even just in church. Some people say, I want to be a social media manager. Your church does not have YouTube page. You are sitting down. They don't have Instagram account. You are sitting down. But every time we ask you, that's where you learn for free. You utilize their resources. You do the work. You make the mistakes because you are helping them. They can't talk too much. And you get better at it to the point that people pay you for it. Does that make sense to you? Okay. All right. Who's next? Let someone else, please. The people online, they are not speaking, which is a good thing. Or maybe not. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay.
I like your smile.
Okay, as last month, I attended a seminar.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it was something like this also.
Mm-hmm.
A young guy came to advise us. It was a church program.
Mm-hmm.
So they brought him to advise the youth. So he said that when he was growing up, it's still concerning these talents and skills that we have. He said when he was growing up, at the age of 12 or 13, he already found his path. He's into coding, and he's just 20 now, and he has really, really gone far. So I was actually moved, and there was a question that I've been bothering me. That's what I want to ask you now. He was talking about, now he was into coding, and he said we told his parents that he was not going to do the regular cycle after WAEC, write jam, go to school. He was not going to follow that Nigeria cycle. That he was going to just go straight to his into his own world, straight his path. And that really made sense. But I want to ask, because I still feel that is just a privilege, because maybe because his parents are rich or something.
I agree with you.
For those that don't have the privilege, there are some people that also, there might be another person that also likes coding, but he doesn't have that privilege to tell his parents that he just wants to just go into the world of coding, because the normal Nigerian parents will like, no, you have to go to school, the normal this thing. So what can you advise for people that actually there are a lot of talent, there are a lot of skills that they have that does not actually require the normal standard, the normal school?
Let me tell you what I told my children. Still get an education. The thing is, like I told the young lady, you can do these things side by side. That's the reality. But you see, when we begin to say, oh, normal school, what is normal school? An education is an education. It may not be the be-all, end-all of something, but it is something that works for most people. Why you are getting the education? Because your parents have insisted that that's what they know that is safe for them. You can do this other thing on the side. Honestly, the young man, okay, he's not my son, I don't know. I will still think that at 20 years, he's successful in many things. But you see, we always think that we go to school to get a degree. No, we go to school to learn life. There is something that happens from an education that doesn't happen from homeschooling. So a lot of us say, because, okay, so he's one of maybe 50 that the coding worked for. And he will tell you that his parents brought people home to tutor him in things. But you don't have that. It just means that you will get there maybe a little more slower than he got there. Do you understand it? But it doesn't mean you won't get there. It doesn't mean you won't get there. So you need to do what you have to do in the season while you're waiting on all. Let's prorate your time. Spend 60% of your time in getting the education and spend 40% on your time in getting your, I don't like the word hustle, so I don't use it, in getting what other thing you need to do on the side up. It just means you won't have time for football, maybe. You won't have time to just visit people randomly because you are busy, but you can do it. And you don't have to drop out of school if your parents say no. Does that make sense? Yes, sir. There's someone behind you. Okay. Let me give the preference to the lady, then I'll come back to you, okay?
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
My name is Monisola. I would like to ask a question regarding my career path. Actually, I have an HND in hospitality management. Right from time, I've always liked to take up roles that gives me the opportunity to interface with people, where I get to talk, explain about things to them, and interact. So after studying hospitality management is quite a broad course.
Yes, so I heard. Somebody tutored me that maybe 2 months ago. I didn't realize.
It's a very broad course where you can decide to go to the front office. You can go to the food and beverage. We have the chef. It's quite broad. But because of my passion for client facing, I decided to major in front office operation, where you get to meet with different people from different walks of life, where you get to talk to them, educate them about your product and services. So because of my passion for that, I went further to study with American Hotel, Lodging and Educational Institute, where I took a professional course. And I was certified. But I don't know if it's because of Nigeria's economy or because I'm the one who is not, I'm trying to align it together. Sometimes I feel like I still need to do more to actually boost my career. Then I went further to study with them, West African Association of Customer Service Professional, because I just felt I needed something to make this career, to make it sound so serious, so you can know that, okay, this is what I'm doing. Because when you meet an average Nigerian, you tell them you're a customer service professional, they're like, customer service, what's that? It's very simple. But I'm like, no, it's broad. It's bigger than the way you're talking about it. So they make you feel like I'm not doing anything. And I'm like, no, this is bigger than what you're actually saying. So sometimes I get confused.
So how about you educate them? How about you start just little blogs online? Maybe just on your whatever social media handle that you are comfortable with, to educate us ignoramuses about how broad customer service is. Does that make sense? Because if we don't know, we don't know. But if you, rather than get frustrated, you sit me down or you send me a link and say, read up on this. I told you it was 2 months ago, a young lady came to interview with us. And she was the one that told us that hospitality management or whatever, that it was really broad. And she started to break. Honestly, because it's not something, I just go to a hotel. If I want to go to a hotel, I expect to be served well. I never really realized how broad it was. So sometimes people would speak out of their ignorance or judge you or comment out of their ignorance. That's a gap that already exists. Nobody, I don't know anybody from where I'm sitting who's done that, made that part of their journey to not just do the work of customer service management in the hospitality business, but also had taken up the responsibility of educating others on what it means. So that's a gap you can fill very easily and talk about it. Do you understand it? After a while, when if you use your SEO properly, if you use your hashtag properly, because we're in the days of social media, when we want to find something out about that, if we type the thing, ripe field, the opportunities abound. Do not look at it as something that should frustrate you. Look at it like we did not go to, sometimes we want to be, this MD CEO is so exciting that we don't consider the option. You will find and determine, if you have a broken whatever it is you're fixing, send it to me. Or if you think you don't have, they may not trust you yet, say to them, I can come over to yours and fix it. Or we can meet somewhere and I'll fix what you have. You have raw material, you shouldn't be looking for work. I will hire you in a heartbeat if it is something that I need for you to do for me. But you need to put the word out there for me to know that you can get that done. Oluwadamilola, I hope that works for you. I'm looking forward to when your first fix-it video on Instagram, tag me. I'm Bidemi Mark-Mordi on Instagram. Tag me and say, you asked me to do this. I'm doing it. Now I'm looking for clientele, okay? God bless you. There's someone with Galaxy X7 Edge who wants to ask a question. Your hand is up. Could you unmute yourself and ask your question then?
All right. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
My name is Maria Alakija.
Hi, Maria. Good afternoon.
I have questions. I'd like to ask, with this interruption in the Nigerian educational strike and all that, how do we develop ourselves to become someone like you? And at the point where you were writing, because I've always wanted to be an author, I write too, but was there any point where you had a life coach that put you through or helped you to proofread and made you become who you are now, maybe a very good writer and author? Yeah. So
Okay.
that's basically my point.
Okay.
First question is, how do I become a part of the Rose of Sharon Foundation? Is it possible for just any individual to be a part of this?
Okay, so I'll answer my two questions, and when we come back, Dr. Bowe will answer whether they take volunteers or interns at the Rose of Sharon Foundation. Your first question was with the interruptions in the school. For starters, I'm not the benchmark because I'm not the best that there is in the field, and you can grow to become better